Welcome back. Now, the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Christine Lagarde, is on a 4-day official visit to engage with policymakers and other stakeholders on the IMF, on how IMF can actually help improve our economy. We're also currently facing all these fiscal monetary challenges, so we obviously need her presence here in Nigeria to see how they can impact and help us to help change the country's revenue. Now, what are your thoughts on her being here? It's your view. You can call us on 070-8066-8014. You can tweet to us at TVC Connect. That's 2 C's, TVC Connect. And please hashtag your view TVC so we can read your tweets. All right, so Jumoke was giving us an intro that yes, she's here.
I'd like to quote her. In a statement, she said, "I look forward to productive meetings with President Buhari and his colleagues as they address important economic challenges, most importantly, the impact of low oil prices." She had a meeting with President Buhari yesterday, and after the meeting, she was saying that she does not think that Nigeria needs to borrow money if we manage our budget very well, and she's saying that the IMF will help recover stolen funds and help ensure that the budget is effectively utilized. I've never trusted IMF and the World Bank for whatever reasons, because they always have, which is why before she came into the country, she was already giving, I'm not coming to negotiate conditions for loans. So, But guess what, Mariah? Regardless of how we don't want to have anything to do with them, the way our budget is, we are going to need to source for funds. Except after taxing all the companies that they can tax and they get all the money, after closing all the loopholes at the MDAs and everything, we're still going to need a small amount of money to be borrowed.
Absolutely correct.
And so it is.
Now, let me give our viewers just a breakdown, just a summary of the budget, of how I understand the budget to be. Right now, you know, this is over 6 trillion naira.
Yeah.
And in that breakdown, we expect to get 820 billion from oil.
Yeah.
That's our projection from oil.
Yeah.
Now, the company income tax, the VAT, internally generated, we hope to get 1.45 trillion from that.
Yeah.
There's something called independent revenue. I don't know what that is. Independent revenues. Yes. So that's also going to contribute 1.51 trillion. That's all contributing to the budget. Now, what we plan to spend on 1.8 trillion on capital projects. Recurrent is about 2.6. Those are the major chunks that's been spent. Now, we plan to borrow of all this, of this 6-point-something trillion. We plan to borrow 1.84 trillion, of which, divided into two, 984 billion is coming from domestic borrowing, and only 900
from outside.
So that 900 is probably what we're assuming that IMF might be
coming to talk
about, possibly. But it's still a very, very ambitious budget, because that's what she's trying to. She's saying, like, listen, I will still have to review. I can't tell you if it's good or not, but I'm going to have to still review to even see how.
Because she also said that the concern of the IMF is the poor people of Nigeria.
Exactly.
So they are going to have a review of the terms of whatever amount of money we are loaning from them, to make sure that it's easy for us. It's not, these terms will not be too difficult for Nigerian government, so that it doesn't come back to the poor people of Nigeria.
Because Nigerian government majorly depends on oil revenue as of today. And we are expecting to only get 820 billion.
Yes.
That 6 trillion budget is a tall order.
Yeah.
If you don't already know where you are going to get it from.
Especially because that was based on $38 per barrel.
It's gone today. It's now 32, 36, up and down.
So now, likely to say it's going to get about $20 eventually.
Please, when the Nigerian government says expect difficult times in 2016, all of us can see it. Oil prices have come down. How come the Nigerian budget then has 3.9 billion naira for cars for the presidency, 39 billion naira for the office of the presidency, 189 million naira to change tires for cars for the presidency, 1.4 billion naira for travels for the presidency, 27.5 million on computers and softwares.
Food and
700.
That's even enough.
Food and
Let me say recreational activities. What does that one mean? 764.7 million, almost a billion naira for recreation. for the president. And you are saying you are expecting me now, a business owner, that I'm going to pay tax. They have written me already. Me that I just finished paying 2013, 2014. They've written me that we need to update our data with the Corporate Affairs Commission. That's in view of taxation. And somebody wants to be spending 1.7 billion for food.
I have a call coming in. Reverend Dominic, I come to talk with. Reverend Dominic, are you there? Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Happy New Year.
Good morning. Happy New Year, sir.
I've said this before, let me say it again. Is Africa underspent? Since 1983, our money is 65 kobo for $1. This IMF and World Bank have talked about devaluation. Till today, what is the gain of IMF in Africa? In Nigeria in particular, what is the gain? Her boss was here. I called Okonjo-Iweala the boss of Lagarde. Okonjo-Iweala have more TV and more World Bank nonsense experience more than this woman. She was there for 10 years. Today we are begging to pay salary. What is Africa that's fair? What is the gain of this IMF to this tension?
All right, thank you very much. We have Henry Boyo in the house, so all these questions, trust me, we are waiting. We're just laying the foundation. When he comes in, he has a lot of things to answer. But Tokwe, you're going to jump in.
Yes, I feel that I know that these figures might sound exorbitant. However, we can't say that because we don't have money, the government shouldn't run itself anymore.
We can cut the budget by half.
Yeah, we can't say the government shouldn't run itself. So yes, it seems as if this fund is too high, and it's really, really, really ridiculous to our hearing. But the point is, the president is going to travel. He has to get funds. He's going to be representing, and people will come in. Lagarde being in Nigeria is being entertained. That's going to cost money. So there needs to be budget for these things. What I feel is wrong is the framework with which the House of Assembly is putting the House of Assembly part. The president already has some cars that he's using already. So I don't think there's a need to replace the cars with new cars in a new year. Every year.
He has said that.
Yes.
He has said that.
Yes. So, and I also know that the House of Assembly members, most of them were already there for the past 4 years. They don't need to replace their cars with new ones. They don't need to change the fridge in their office, change the furniture in their office. So yes, we all need to start assembly. It needs to start from them. Yeah. But we cannot say that these figures are outrageous because...
Excuse me, 27.4 for computers. The computers that Jonathan bought last year, are they bad?
It's easy for us to make
189 million for tires.
Don't get hang in there. You know, right now when we say the figures in the whole, it sounds a lot. But when you start, even in the office here, how much you pay for fuel, for staff, for operational services is a lot of money. So if you look at the bulk, yes, I agree with you.
Hold on. The point I want to drive at is if you are going to make 100 trillion naira from oil and you want to spend 6 trillion.
You make sense.
You make sense. Yeah. You don't have the money you want to spend.
Yeah. So pretty much everybody should tighten their belt. And it start from the top, and I agree with you. I'll let Nima talk, but let me quickly take this call from Ike. Ike, are you there?
Yes, I am. Happy New Year, beautiful
Happy New Year.
I'd love to speak to you guys forever. I'm a first-time caller.
Welcome to the show.
Okay, thank you very much. I am totally disheartened, about the wastage, perpetrated by governments in this country. And then we keep paying lip service, to uplifting the lives of the average Nigerian. I mean, looking at what you guys just rolled out in the budget, which I'm aware of, it is hopeless. I mean, why would you want to buy tires for? What happened to the cars you bought last year? Have they sold them or have they disappeared? I mean, why do you have to spend so much money on
using the same kind of tires for 2 years?
And then you want people to come and invest, and you think they are fools? Because if they bring in their funds into this country, the same way is going to go down the drain because there are no structures. Now, the guys in the Senate want to buy cars. These are guys who can buy cars worth 20 million, without blinking an eyelid. If they need committee cars, can they buy Toyota Hiace buses, utility vehicles? What happened to the innocent motors? Are they for export? Are they the ones saying we should patronize made in Nigeria goods? Yeah. And then
they're very correct.
Buy BMW cars to drive on which roads? The roads are not there.
In fact, I can say this one.
It's happening, and the major problem is that there's no plan for the average Nigerian youth, and they keep blaming them.
All right, thank you so much, Ike. I don't want to say there's no plan for the average.
Because they do. The Ministry
Even the
of
National
Labour
Assembly has said that the president was being misled or misinformed on how much they actually do spend on these things. So let us be very, very clear, because those numbers just jump around and we assume, oh, that's how much they're spending. But in reality, it might not be so. But
In reply to him, there are plans for the Ministry of Labour released their plans that they have 3 ways in which they want to employ the youth: through agriculture, through teaching, and also through the from NYC in bringing them in. So there are plans for the unemployed and the youth.
Another thing I saw in the budget was sorry, let me let you go. I have Mohammed from Accra though.
Okay, please.
Mohammed, are you there? From Accra.
Yeah, I'm there.
How are you? Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm there.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Delayed. It's delayed.
Yeah, I think I'm a first time caller from Accra, Ghana.
Welcome to the show.
I always watch your show and I'm very impressed. But you are discussing about the budget. I think it's too much. It's too much. Because the president has come with, let's call it, he said that he's going to cut the budget. The past government is too much.
Okay.
So I think you are talking on the right course.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
To eat and cut down.
Very good.
Yeah.
Nima, you could
Yes, I was going to say that it's very important that when we say we've come with change, we are going to, cut costs, we are going to save a lot of money, we are going to do things differently, that we truly, truly do things sincerely. If this budget now, with all these costs that Jumoke just read out, is not reflecting what Nigerians expected, we don't need these tires, we know that. People will start to doubt whether this agenda is truly, is sincere. We have to do things and let it reflect sincerity. Let people see it transparently.
The reality on ground.
Realities on ground.
For me, my understanding of budget is, maybe when Mr. Henry comes, I'll ask him, when you say budget doesn't necessarily mean you're going to spend it. It's just something you're allocating for that cost.
Well,
so it is possible that it's been allocated going on the history.
Let me give you the Nigerian interpretation. We might even spend beyond it.
More than that.
Because we have budget extension.
You are stating a fact. In the past few years, we always spend beyond our budget.
All right.
So, if
Emmanuel's
Nigerians are adjusting, please, government should adjust.
All right. Mohammed, let me take this call.
Across board.
Emmanuel.
Hello?
From Abuja. Yes, Emmanuel. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I said I would like to contribute. I'm
Yes.
calling you to contribute on the IMF or the visit of the IMF boss.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Can I go ahead?
Yes,
yes,
please.
yes.
Yeah. Over the years, hello? Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead,
Can you hear
please.
me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you. I think over the years, we've had this experience with the World Bank and IMF having policies that have never been friendly to Africa.
Yes, sir.
But if we can have the likes of Okonjo-Iweala and Aruma Ote and all that, why do we need Lagarde and Cruz to come here and tell us so? Mr. President said it's recovery fund. Yeah, okay, you can channel that to the budget one, yeah. And we were given the impression that Mr. Buhari is a Spartan leader, someone who doesn't condone corruption and all that. But the budget itself,
It's corruption.
the budget itself doesn't reflect what we should get. Cut down we don't need the number of aircraft in the presidential fleet.
BMW cars.
Excessive, and there's nothing to show that there's a departure from the past. They only have a change in the name of the political party and who's there. But aside that, they feel what the ordinary man on the street feels. This budget, sorry to say, I don't know. It's not just the budget for the
All right. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Yes, you
May I just quote the IMF boss? She said that the budget is we have very ambitious goals that needs to be delivered on. There's necessity to apply fiscal discipline and need to respond to population needs. You can't be the government over poor people that you are expecting they should tighten their belts more and you want to drive a brand new BMW.
Yeah.
I think that
All right.
we need
I think-
more
Let me
from
quickly
our
take this
body
to-
language.
Olayemi says those figures for the presidency has been said by the Garba show to be false. The breakdown has not been made public. Then kindly follow back says, I think Oluwanoni, that's Jumoke missed it about the budget. Let's wait for the House to tell us about the budget. I think it's not been made public truly.
It's not
but
true.
these are the figures that we're saying. They are figures we're seeing, but it's possible.
May I defend the president? There's an office, there's a budget office that does this budget on an annual basis. It seems like they just picked up the copy of 2014 budget or 2000 and just, retweet it. Because I hear that the president has even withdrawn it. Why are the figures this high?
Yeah. All right. So let's see what happens. But when we come back, we're going to have Henry Boyo here to exactly break it down for us. What does IMF, our budget, how do they connect? Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Now, according to reports, there are indications that the 2016 budget appropriation bill may be further subjected to scrutiny and amendments by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, despite being already presented to the National Assembly for legislative action. Joining us to discuss this is an economist, Mr. Henry Boyo. To give us a call, you can call us on 070-8066-8014. You can tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can actually get your tweets. Welcome to the show, sir.
Happy New
Thank you.
Year.
Happy New Year.
to
Good
you
to
all.
have you back. So, Lagarde is here. She's saying, oh, I'm not here to talk about negotiating about loans and all that. We're just here to go and just see your budget and just see how effective it's going to be, X, Y, Z. And then we are seeing our budget also as people, like, how do we connect this to this visit, what we're spending, the fact that oil price has gone down. There's this internally generated revenue that we're hoping to get to make a huge chunk of our revenue this year. How is that going to play out?
Thank you, Mariah. The issues of the budget and Lagarde's visit are clearly intertwined. You know, the lady said yesterday that there were 4 areas of interest, basically, that they wanted to see what our short-term fiscal situation is. In other words, how is the budget structured and how feasible would it be? They also wanted to talk about fiscal discipline. In other words, are you serious about corruption, the leakages and things like that, and cutting down on unnecessary expenses? Our other concern was that we have a very large population and there is a wide disconnect between the very rich and the very, very poor. So she appeared to be concerned about that and wanted also to encourage us or to advise on how we could be more competitive in the global market. That was her agenda. But this agenda totally fits, in my view, with the 2016 budget, which listening to you guys here, you're certainly not too happy about. You are in good company. I'm not too happy about it either. You see, when you have what is called austerity, austerity means that your sources of income would certainly be depleting. You can predict, it is evident that this would happen. And you, you at the same time, increase your spending. You know, the lady said, Mrs. Lagarde said, it is rather ambitious. You know, when the Western people want to tell you that something is silly, they will tell you it's very ambitious. You do not, in an austerity climate where your income sources are depleting, begin to expand your income.
Your expenditure, you mean?
Your expenditure, thank you very much. And you will compare with what happened in 2014. The total budget was about 4.5 or 4.6 trillion. That was not supposed to be an austerity budget, okay? Because there was still... Absolutely. But then, in a year of austerity, you now have an allocation of 4.8 trillion, much more than the total of last year's budget, both what do you call it, capital and recurrent. And you are told, and you can see, and even the experts tell you, that the price of crude oil, from which you even expect 800 and something billion, at $38 per barrel, may actually fall below 20. And you still pretend that nothing is happening. I will still spend more because you think, after all, there's so much money in the market, I can go and borrow. But if you do go and borrow when you don't already have a debt burden, it might not be too condemnable. But then if you already have a debt burden and you allocate in the same budget, almost 35% of that budget will be for debt service and things like that. That, to my mind, is not, how do I say it, it's not an ambitious budget. It's a misguided budget.
That's all.
I have two questions. You know, you mentioned last year budget, which wasn't an austerity budget, but we also know that we had supplementary budget. So that figure doesn't represent what was actually spent.
God bless
A
you.
whole lot more was spent in covering up our expenses within that year. So we cannot just pick the figure that was approved as the figure that we spent. So also, this year, the difference being that they mentioned, the government mentioned to us that they want to carry out more capital projects. The idea is that they want to empower the youth. It is an investment stage. We would invest money right now in teaching this youth. They would now start agriculture, and in the short-term plan, we will now start reaping the fruits of that labor that we are going to take this year. So they've explained that this is ambitious. This is more than what we really should have. But we need this if we want to have a future. If we go lower than what we they budgeted right now, then we end up just paying salaries for the year and those fools in our hands are not doing anything. Do you agree with their explanation?
You see, I think the issue here is, in a year of the low cost, you tighten your belts.
Yes, sir.
Beyond what you were spending before. To my mind, I think that Mr. President has been sold a dummy by the civil servants. Previously, they had what they call this envelope system of budgeting, in which case each department and agency is supposed to say, I spent 1 naira last year, so I'm going to spend 1 naira 10 kobo this year.
Based on inflation.
Based on inflation or whatever factors that you ascribe to that. And the money is given to you. But with the zero budgeting system, excuse me, which has been implemented as from this year, you tell the civil servants, go and tell us the real situation, what you really need. And civil servants are no fool. They built up each, because when you look at, just as Jumoke was saying here, you find instances where there are actually increases in expenditure at a time that you would expect that the leakages which are being plugged, the monetization program, which was supposed to save the country a lot of money, the elimination of ghost workers, which was also supposed, these were all supposed to bring down expenditure. But instead of expenditure coming down, you find that it has almost
now let's
doubled.
Go to this issue of internal generator, because we talk about fiscal discipline. Now, how do you think they can go about to ensure that companies pay dues back to the government? Because how realistic is that? I think it's 1.5 trillion they expect to get from internal generator. How is that possible?
Well, again, that is ambitious.
Very, very.
Because, you know, companies can't pay much tax when they are not operating or when they are collapsing or their results are not very
they are not profitable.
attractive. So expecting that you would get blood from the dead cow may not be a healthy expectation at all. You're absolutely right. The issues are quite clear. We know that we require capital expenditure, but let's be quite honest with ourselves. Over the years, how much has been budgeted for capital allocations and what has actually come out of all those expenses? I would be very happy if we had increased capital expenditure, but I wouldn't expect that we would need to subject ourselves to borrowing in order to do so.
Okay.
In a time of austerity, I would expect you going to tighten your belt and see how you can obtain revenue from healthy sources. And that's what Lagarde says, that she would look at, or the IMF would look at, are sources of revenue, whether they are realistic or not. But then if you're talking of income expectation based on 38 and you already know the crude oil will be 20 or just above, already your income expectations are jeopardized. Plus also, if you had a situation where the naira is further devalued, then of course all your capital expectations may not be implemented, because a significant component of capital expenses usually come from imports. Okay? So if you had a situation where, and it's fairly predictable and imminent if we don't do something about it, this huge difference between the black market rate and the official rate. I think that is also possibly what Lagarde was talking about when she was talking about some monetary flexibility. Because we all know that they have been saying devalue the naira, devalue the naira. So that should be on the agenda. But I tell you something, anybody who tells Nigerians to devalue the naira is not a friend of the country.
That's all.
Let me take this call from Odion Maja. Are you there? I'm so sorry.
Sorry, Odion.
Yes.
So I was hopeful when the TSA was, the TSA policy was put in place, and I expected that a lot. We know that a lot of our income also come from the customs, but these monies are misappropriated or embezzled one way or the other. I hoped that with the TSA we'll have at least be able to get some substantial revenue from the customs, from our importations and all that policies. Is it possible that this is one area that we could ensure that the money comes? That if we put good, strong policies in place, we could ensure that we get revenue from there. Is there hope in that area?
First of all, you get revenue from economic activity, taxations and things like that. Excise duties but if you have a situation where people are not importing because they cannot get dollars and things, then of course where do we get the revenue from?
Okay, I have a question. Our capital expenditure for the year is still 30%, which is very, very low compared to, my initial question would have been that how many people are working for the government, legislature, executive and judiciary to warrant that 70% of our expenditure is spent on them. But for the Works, Power and Housing Ministry that has been allocated 467.6 billion in the fiscal year, I remember that just the Lekki-Ekpe Expressway was reconstructed, was already built, it was just expanded with 50 billion naira. If you look at 50 billion in this new budget, then you wonder what they expect our ex-governor Fashola to do with 467 billion as a budget for 3 huge ministries like that. And then somebody is going to buy electrical fittings of 618.6 million. Is it that the bulbs have all died from last year?
Okay, before you go into that, let me just take this call from Adamawa State. Abdul Karim, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still there.
I'm sorry for keeping you. Go ahead, please.
Morning, how are you?
Very well.
So, good afternoon. Yeah, my contribution over this National Assembly issue. There is something that is going that people doesn't know it because it's little problem to some people. Last year they do supplementary budgets about this fuel subsidy and former National Assembly aid. Their money, that's the surveillance. And to today they pay this oil subsidy people are paid. Up to today, this National Assembly aid, as they are together, they're supposed to collect together. July last year, up to today, they have never been paid. Why? Still corruption is going in the National Assembly. For me, that law that they want to make over this media something, they are doing it because of this petty problem that people never know. Please, we are getting opportunity to talk to TVC. Maybe they will open their ear to hear this. Let presidency interfere into this issue. Some people, they are daring because they never collect their money.
Okay.
National Assembly.
Thank you so much, Abdul Karim.
He's talking about National Assembly.
In addition to Jumoke's question of 450
and 67
being
billion
budgeted to the Power Ministry. The Power Ministry.
3 ministries.
To 3 ministries under the 3 ministries combined together. This same ministry is actually spending 20 billion just to power their headquarters in Abuja. That's the budget just to power headquarters, 20 billion. How do we now expect
good roads,
all the
housing
expectations, the capital projects that we're expecting?
Let me just capture your question with the question. All these questions. Wait, who is responsible for the budget to plan this budget? Is it the budget office or the? I just want to know who should take responsibility.
Each minister
when things start
or
to
budget office
fall apart.
The budget is usually predicated in the last few years on what is called a medium-term expenditure framework.
Okay.
Within the medium-term expenditure framework would be defined the direction that you want to go in the next 3 years, and it's a rolling plan usually. But the reality, of course, is that there is a huge disconnect between the medium-term expenditure framework provisions and what you actually see on ground after previous years. And there's nothing to suggest that anything has changed. And ideally, you would have expected that before you actually start talking about extended capital projects and all that, a proper audit should have been done of all those projects which were
Outstanding?
Outstanding, ongoing, to see, does that make sense? Does this, should we do this? Should we do this? And then rather than decide once and for all that we are going to spend, I think spending has just got into everybody. Let us spend. I don't understand this phrase of spending yourself way out of power. I think that's rather out of poverty or problems. I think it's very prodigal to think I will spend my way out of poverty.
Let me take this call from Abuja. Iken, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still there. Thank you. Good
Please
morning.
go ahead.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate your contributions on this issue concerning Nigeria. Actually, what I want to say is this. I thank the administration of EMD, President Muhammadu Buhari, and he's been doing so much to fix this country. But I know that the powers on top will go as far as they could to actually weigh him off from the major object. Now, the issue is this. Corruption needs to be tackled in this country. That's number one. The Senate themselves, I believe they owe this country a lot. I thank God for the IMF person that came yesterday, the MD of IMF. She said that with good physical discipline, students, and anti-corruption program, this country we can still make the law from this country. This country is so rich, but the only thing ripping us from benefiting is the corruption. We need to
Thank you for bringing that issue. Thank you, Ikena. Let me call the corruption angle. Thanks, Ikena. Now, the corruption that Ikena mentioned, there's this anti-corruption drive going on, $1.1 billion. We're hopeful, but is that enough? Is that sufficient? Because a lot is dependent also in this budget on this ability to recoup stolen funds. So we're going around for almost how many months on talking about Dasuki took 2.1. Then there's so much money out there. So we're focusing on this one Dasuki, but what of the other people who have looted Nigeria dry? So how realistic is this recoup that we expect to add to this budget?
To fund the budget.
To fund the budget.
Well, I would add to your woes, even though I don't want to. It's not only an issue of prosecuting those who have looted funds in the past. It's also a question of this huge budget. What provisions or what systems have been put in place that it's not also looted? We don't have any assurance of that at the moment, apart from just the personnel of Mr. President. And I think we should be very careful in terms of our expectations because you don't wish things into place. You put structures in place that will drive them. And you also don't expect that the poverty which Mrs. Lagarde mentioned would be in any way addressed by government spending. Those type of things like employment creation, additional wealth creation and things like that are driven by the private sector. And if the structure is not in place in the private sector, for example, it would be like hot air to start talking of rejuvenation of the economy. Indeed, diversification, if you cannot bring interest rates down to 5 or 6% across the board, not intervention funds. Intervention funds are themselves inflationary. Indeed, the irony of the whole thing is that you have a situation where inflation is knocking on your door, and you say the best thing to do is to spend some more money that you have not created or you have not worked for. We have a problem.
Let's take about three each, because I think we have enough.
This one is just a question on Twitter. Said my question to Mr. Boyo is: can we actually finance a deficit budget without entering contractual agreements with the IMF? Is that possible?
Yes, we can. At the moment, as the lady said, we are not at that point of desperation when the IMF will say, would bail you out, but you have to do this or you have to do that, like they did last time. And when they said, okay, we'll let you, together with the Paris and London debt clubs, we'll let you settle and encourage settlement, but you have to start selling your dollars to bureau de change. You have to start making it possible for people to take their monies out and things. And 10 years down the road, we see the result of that.
Exactly. Okay, so 3 more tweets. Ilesomi Samuel says, our main concern about the 2016 budget is employment for our youth. Omolaja Olatunji says, I'm even more scared now. Is Henry Boyo saying we're just running on optimism, getting monies from taxes and customs? Last one, Bing Coco says, there is need to overhaul the budget department and give it a new direction. It is not game as usual. Nigeria must change.
Ratel Solution says, our government think we don't have brain. What do they think? What do they need new cars, tires, computers for? Haba. Ugochi says, if we are so concerned about our economy, we should do the right thing, pay your taxes promptly and manage your and manage federal resources well.
If I make profits.
Well, Abudu says, I think our government should cut down on most of their expenses.
Okay, because we have to round up. I want you to tell us the best case scenario and the worst case scenario with this budget that we have 2016. What if things go as planned? The best case scenario, how possible is that? And the worst case scenario, and how that one will mean for us as Nigerians.
If things go as planned, by that you mean we'll be able to spend 6 trillion naira. We'll be able to borrow almost 2 trillion naira also, okay? If you increase your spending in this climate where we have a burden of surplus cash all the time, what you're going to do is you're going to fuel inflation. You might say, oh, big deal, what's inflation? But then in reality, if you have a situation where inflation is going at 10% annually, for example, it means that if you went to the supermarket with your basket and you are able to buy 10 items, for example, in your basket in year 1, on the 10th year, you would only be able to buy 1 item if they are equally priced. So you would naturally have to be stepping back. So don't don't just dismiss that, oh, we can bear the inflation. When the inflation becomes rampant. In fact, the inflation is and management of money supply is the core essence of any sensible economy. If you don't handle that properly, your fiscal plan, because at the end of the day, when Lagarde speaks of monetary flexibility, she must be worried, I would expect, that we have continuously had excess liquidity for over 30 years and we've been borrowing money we don't need. I wonder why the IMF doesn't recognize this. Maybe it's not to their benefit to say, hey, you guys, what's going on here?
Interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It's always so educating having you here, Mr. Boyo.
Our guest of the year.
Yeah, definitely the best guest of the year. But thank you so much for being here. You can also check us on YouTube by going to YouTube/TV Entertainment and search for Your View. You can also follow us on TVC Connect. You can check us on Facebook, TVC Connect. That's our Facebook page. Check us out. We have 3 stations: the TVC International, TVC News Nigeria, and we have TVC Entertainment, which is what you're watching right now. You can catch us on TVC Connect anytime. God bless you. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.